I did not immediately realize that they were holding me locked up. At first, it was like a strange game. A bright room with white walls, a muffled smell of sandalwood and cloying silence. Neither windows, nor hours, nor even sockets are only a bed, a table, and a single door, behind which steps were rarely heard. They brought me food at the same time. But I did not know if this morning or evening. The brain refused to accept the obvious. I did not scream. He did not call. I just waited. The body was intact. The room is clean. I was not caused by physical harm. Everything looked tolerant. But this is exactly what scared. I spent in my head desperately. If they do not harm, then they can wait. They know how to break slowly. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling as if in the abyss. The sleepless nights mixed with empty days. The boundaries between dreams and reality were erased. When I first heard a voice, I thought I was going crazy. "You are still fighting," he said. I did not know where he said. The voice was male, deep, insinuating, with soft diction. Not from the speaker or from the room itself. For what? I jumped up. Fear paralyzed the throat. I could not answer. He knew this. "You thought the world was fair?" That evil comes with a knife in his hand and a wild cry. But evil is a smile. This is a bright face, an extended hand. I closed my ears with my palms. He sat in a corner, bending down. I wanted to howl. And then, in the darkness of his mind, that meeting surfaced. How it all started. It was 2 years ago, in October. I just moved to this city. After dismissal from the editorial office in Moscow, after a long divorce and a series of meaningless attempts to start all over again, I did not look for faith. I did not look for the point. I was looking for just silence. Work in the printing house on the outskirts is calm, boring. He lived in a cheap rented room with peeling walls, furniture second-hand. I almost did not want to talk to anyone too. The first evening in the new area was wet and grey. I went home when a woman flew into me, all wet in a woolen shawl with a frightened look. Excuse me. She grabbed my hand tenaciously. "I am there, but I'm late." I only nodded silently and moved away. She darted on, but suddenly turned around. "If there is time, come in. There. Warm. Good people. We are gathering every Thursday. Comuna Street, 12. And she disappeared in the lane. I did not attach importance. Forgot. Almost. And then there was that evening. I woke up in a broken chair, in the middle of an empty apartment, with a half-empty bottle, and a heavy feeling that everything is not so. The heart ached. The soul did not breathe. It was an old building, a former kindergarten. The facade was peeled, but inside it was surprisingly clean. Light wallpaper, books on the shelves, warm light from lamps. People are the most ordinary. An elderly woman in a grey sweater, a guy of about 20, a mother with a child. They sat around. In the middle, he, leader, Alexei Nikolaevich, tall, grey-haired, with the right features and bright eyes. He watched as if he had known you since childhood. In the voice, not a drop of pressure. "Come in, don't be afraid. We are always glad to new faces." I sat down, unconsciously. For the first time in a long one, I felt time that they see me. He was not talking about God, not about his soul. He talked about pain, about the void that cannot be filled with work, alcohol, or love. He said as if he pulled out of me what I was afraid to even admit. "We are not here for sermons," he said. "We are here to remember who we are." Then there were months. I came more and more often, and every week he left with the feeling that he was warming in his chest. I was not forced to abandon the old life. I was given the opportunity to be heard. Sect? No. Then it seemed to me as a refuge, too. Nobody pushed me, did not threaten, did not blackmail. Everything was soft, voluntary. Alexei Nikolaevich said that everyone has their own path, and if you are ready to go, they will help you. But over time, in his words appeared what I did not notice at first. The world is an illusion. Family, work, money, control tools. Only here you are real. And then, strange requests. We want to hear you. Present, open. Remove the old accounts. They tie you to the past. Do not inform others where you go. They may not understand. I listened. I succumbed. Not immediately, little by little. It seemed, yes, logical. The world around was a stranger. Here, warm, clean, real. But once I saw a girl, Lena, that she always smiled, sat in a room with an empty look. As Alexei held her hand, whispered something to her. And she nodded, not blinking. I felt uneasy. I began to ask questions. First carefully, then tougher. And then everything changed. The voice sounded in the room again. You still think you can escape? I jerked, sitting. Silence thickened. You asked the wrong question. When they ask why, it means that they are not ready to accept the answer. I wrapped my head over my hands. I wanted to forget. I wanted to disappear, but the memories were returning. That night when I packed things, when I realized that I should leave, when I was intercepted at the entrance. Fault. They did not hit. They did not shout. They didn't even touch me. 3 just got up. Vitaly, that guy of about 20, a woman in grey, the sweater, and one more, knew I did not know his name. They looked at each other as if they were waiting for the signal and stood between me and the exit. I was already at the limit. Months of doubt, burnout, nightmares. When you feel every day, you stopped belonging to yourself, when the words that previously warmed now sound like chains. I'm leaving, I said. Do not stop. Vitaly grinned. You don't understand. It doesn't work like that. What does not work? I squeezed the straps of the backpack. I came myself, and I'm leaving myself. You came because you were empty, and you are still empty, but now you know that outside, only dust. You can't stand it. The woman squeezed her lips. Her face was complete fear, or pity. I didn't understand. Alexei Nikolaevich does not want you to make mistakes, said the unfamiliar. He asked to convey, if you leave, do not come back. You will cross the line. I was silent. A trembling rose inside, as in those years when my father locked me in the pantry for disobedience. Everything was returning. The smell of dusty boxes, the taste is rusty water on the lips. I stepped forward, slowly, 1 step, second, no one moved. And then I went through them. Door, stairs, street. Fresh air collapsed like a hurricane. I stood on the sidewalk and did not believe that everything was behind. There was neither a scream nor a chase, only silence. Suspicious, sticky. At home, I burned everything. Their booklets, photographs, even diaries in which he recorded reflections after meetings. For a while, I did not even go out into the street. I slept with a knife under the pillow. I considered myself free. But they did not disappear. First, calls. Without sound. Just thrown out calls from unfamiliar numbers. Then, letters without a signature. You still do not understand who you are. There is no salvation outside. You will be called, and we will not answer. I changed the number. He moved to another area. He began to go to the psychotherapist. I was given PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I took pills, slept in fragments, avoided any religious topics. At first it helped, but it all ended when Lena disappeared. Her disappearance did not cause waves. She was an orphan, without relatives, with an inconspicuous biography. I learned from a random note on the network. A young woman of 26 years old was missing. The last time she was seen near the building on the street of the commune. Communes. I rushed there. The building was empty. Rolled walls, silence, dust, as if they were not there. I went around the whole quarter. No one heard, I did not know. And then I found jammed posted paper in the door. On it is a neat handwriting. You returned. You were right. But now we are inside. And signature, L. The next weeks were like in a fever. I stopped sleeping again. He began to search. I found a forum of former adherents. Wrote. 2 answered. One is Ivan, a former officer who spent 4 years there. The second is a girl named Kira. She ran away with a teenager. We met. They spoke at night. I recorded. Compared. All stories are different, but with one through motive. Alexei Nikolaevich never shouted. He simply touched the patient himself until a person broke. He is not just a psychologist, said Ivan. Hetiner. Cunning. He picks up the smell of wounds. He was my god, Kira said quietly, until I understood that his voice in my head does not allow me to breathe. I tried to attract the police, but I had no evidence. Only words, only scars in the head. Then I decided, I will return. Not as a participant, as a witness, like a spy. I got a job at the fund where the organization Restoration was listed, a new name for their movement. Under the guise of social work, they were engaged in spiritual accompaniment and restoration of emotional connection with themselves. I had to go through the first circle of trust. Take part, listen again. I thought I could handle it. I thought that now I was stronger. But when he entered the room, Alexei Nikolaevich, I realized that I was mistaken. He looked at me as if we had never parted. In his eyes, no shadow of surprise, no fear, no accusation, only softness. You returned, he said. You chose. And suddenly I realized, it is not me that I am looking for Lena. It is he who leads me. As always. I don't know how much time I looked at him, unable to speak, move, even breathe freely. All that I was taught on therapy is to recognize manipulations, to maintain critical thinking, to repeat, this has no power over me. It disappeared in an instant. He came up, not in a hurry. He held out his hand as then. Glad you are with us again. I did not regret her, but he did not back down. Warm. In the eyes, careless participation, as if he is just glad to see an old friend. He did not reproach, not reminded. I did not ask why I left. It was the worst, because in this silence there was approval. He has already won, and he knew it. I started playing the role, or thought I was playing. Everything went along the script, painfully familiar, warm light, slow meetings, support circles, soft talk about meaning, pain, about emptiness. Thoughts, like dreams, began to swim. Questions were erased. Only the atmosphere remained. They called it immersion. Alexei Nikolaevich said, we are not religion, we are not faith, we are experience. Through us you return to yourself, myself. Each word enveloped like cotton wool. And inside is cold. I saw others listen to him, as if under hypnosis. I saw how they cried as they said, I never felt so alive. And I also said that, smiling, past. But inside, trembling did not stop. Kira called less often. She said that I became like them, that my voice has changed, that I begin to justify him. I laughed. He said that she was imagining, that this is part of the role. But when I was left alone in the room, I suddenly caught myself thinking, maybe really, maybe he is not angry, maybe I didn't understand, maybe all this anxiety in me is mine, not him. I remembered his voice in the first weeks. Fear is what you have left when you gave everything else. But fear is not an enemy. This is your last friend. He leads you to the door. One evening, he called me into a separate room. I knew, The second stage begins. There were no cameras, no recorder, no paper. Only we are together. He sat opposite, silent, watched. Tell me the truth, he said softly. Only the truth. I felt the tongue as if sticking to the palate. I wanted to lie, to say that I was just missing, that I felt lonely. But his eyes are like blades. He looked through me. You came as an enemy, he said. And this is normal. I was waiting for this. I exhaled. He knew. But you stayed. And this is the main thing. He got up. He came up, touching the hand to the shoulder is light, almost fatherly. Because you are ours, even if you yourself are afraid of it. After that, he gave me the task. It was new, not just participation in groups, and active involvement. I had to prepare a new participant, a young guy named Artyom. He was 22. He survived an attempt to suicide. Nobody believed him, except us. I started working with him. First, according to the instructions, softly, calmly, not rushing, support, recognition of pain. You are not broken. You are alive. But the more I said, the more I caught myself on what I believe. I saw myself in Artyom many years ago, helpless. And I knew that perhaps the fact that he do it saves him. And if so, maybe Alex was right. I woke up more and more often at night, in sweat, with the feeling that the room whispers to me. Once I saw a note under the door. You forgot why you came. Without a signature. The handwriting is not Kira. I began to suspect that someone else understands what was happening. Someone is watching. I tried to track down who, but unsuccessfully. And then, at the most foggy moment, Artyom disappeared. He did not come to the meeting. He did not answer calls. His profile in the system was removed. No one wanted to speak. I went to Alexei Nikolaevich, directly, hard. Where is he? He only looked, silently, and smiled. Sometimes, in order to degenerate, you need to leave. It was a child, I hissed. He trusted. And you? He made his choice. Not everyone is ready to go to the end. You understand this. And I understood that this is not just a structure, not just a community. This is a capsule, the labyrinth in which the walls move until you yourself lose direction. I could not leave right away. It was necessary to understand. Where is he? What about him? Who else endangers? I stayed from the inside. Like poison that he wants to expel himself. But the poison began to act on me. I started to believe again, and doubt, and believe. Dreams began to come every night. Alexei Nikolaevich stood at the head of my bed and stroked my head. He said that I was good, that I found myself, that now I'm one of them, that I have always been to them. And I woke up, in my room, with a locked door and a phone on aircraft mode. And the first thing I felt was warm, as if his palm was still touching my skin. I began to be afraid of myself. Artyom was not found. There was no statement to the police. No one, neither his friends, nor family, nor the state, knew that he had disappeared at all. He was not listed in the bases, did not work. I did not study. All that he had is we, and I, and this knowledge gave me out from the inside. I started asking questions, indirect, caution, those who have been here for a long time, who passed the second step, who was called internal. But in response, silence, empty eyes, or learned phrases. If he left, then it is necessary. Кто ты, чтобы вмешиваться в чужой путь? Не все готовы принять себя. Он, может, еще вернется. Я чувствовал. Они лгут. Не потому, что боятся, а потому, что верят, что это правильно. И тогда я понял. Мне нужен кто-то извне. Witness, зацепка за реальность. Я нашел Кирину страницу в старой соцсети. Wrote. Ждал. For a long time. Days and Nights. Она ответила спустя неделю. Ты уже не ты, но я все еще здесь, смотри почту. Do not write here anymore. На почту пришло зашифрованное письмо. I opened. Там контакты частного детектива. Его звали Павел Нечаев. Бывший следователь. Специализировался на исчезновениях. Работал в частном порядке, без огласки. Мы встретились в кафе на другом конце города. Я рассказал все. Он слушал молча. Потом медленно кивнул. Ты не первый, и, боюсь, не последний. He said that he had already encountered the disappearance associated with this fund twice. Одна из девушек была найдена через полгода. In a private clinic, without documents. С диагнозом глубокая диссоциативная амнезия. Вторая. Though still listed on the wanted list. Но доказать почти невозможно. Они работают тонко. Ни угроз, ни насилия. Only choice, только доверие. Legally, you just voluntarily give up life. Он пообещал искать Артема. Мне же велел сохранять роль и не суетиться. И самое главное, не вызывать подозрений у Алексея. Но это было почти невозможно. Because Alexei began to call me more and more. Говорить наедине. Задавать вопросы, от которых кружилась голова. «Ты чувствуешь, что ты не один?» – спрашивал он. «Что внутри тебя есть два? Один прежний. The other is real. Tell me which of them talks to me now». I was silent. Иногда лгал. Иногда слишком долго молчал. Он все чувствовал. И вдруг стал ласковым. More than ever. «Я знаю, ты страдаешь», — говорил он, — «потому что ты борешься с собой. But we are not me. Мы ты. We are your real voice. You are just afraid to hear him». Эти слова сыпались, как пепел. Они ложились на мои плечи, на волосы, под ногти. I could not shake them. On one of the groups I saw a new girl. Very young. Karina, pale, almost transparent. She reminded me of Lena. I should not interfere, but I could not. He came up after the meeting, just greeted. She was scared, staggered. Sorry, they told me not to talk to you. Who? She did not answer. But I knew. I felt squeezing, like coal under the press. That inside me is increasingly flashing that which is not like fear, rather despair that everything is too deep, too late. Pavel rarely wrote, only short updates. There are traces, we are watching, do not interfere. I was waiting, and every day my role became more and more my essence. I began to forget why I came. And then there was an evening that changed everything. At the next meeting, in a quiet room, Alexei suddenly turned to me. Lesha, and today you will spend a circle. Everyone turned around. Silently. Expective. I got up. He stepped into the center. And I realized, now I will either finally become one of them, or... I started talking. The voice was a stranger, confident, low, calm. I heard myself from the outside and did not recognize. We are here to be, not to run, not to argue. There are no enemies, only you are the path. They listened, eyes burned, someone cried, and inside me something died. I went out after the meeting, as if robbed. It was as if he pulled a piece from his chest and gave it forever. I found Kira, myself, without warning. She lived in an apartment with boarded-up windows. I met me with a knife behind my back, only when I was convinced that I was still crying. You shouldn't have come, she said. He's already inside. But I know where Lena is. She froze. I think she is still there. Not left. They keep her. How? Like holy relics. I did not sleep for almost 2 days. Kira and I sat in silence, drank cold coffee and laid it out in pieces. Names, dates, diagrams, contacts, traces, memories. Every time I closed my eyes, it seemed to me that he was watching. Somewhere outside the door, in the mirror, in my voice. Kira showed me an old flash drive. This Lena had. I took it when she still doubted. It seemed to her that she was writing a diary, but in fact, protocols, each meeting, each conversation, part with Alex, separately. This is scary. I turned on the record. You are not afraid of me, Lena, he told her in a voice. You are afraid that one day you will wake up, and you will no longer be. Neither old nor new, only a voice, only structure. But this is peace, the complete disappearance of pain. Pause. Quiet sob. I don't know who I am, she whispers. And you do not need to know. Pause. Then her voice, almost inaudible. You are right. The record broke. I turned off. The chest was squeezed. Kira was shaken. She gave up, herself. But I know she's alive. I know. And you know. I nodded. The next morning, Paul wrote, There is contact. I send the coordinates. Be ready. He warned. Pulling it out is to burn all the bridges. There will be no longer back. Neither for me, nor for Kira, nor for her. I answered in one word. Ready? We could not just burst. It was not a prison. No one held people for lattice. It was a house. Center. Cozy shelter with cameras at the corners and protection without shape. Павел продумал все. Фальшивый вызов от якобы новенькой участницы. Личная встреча с Алексом. Одновременный заход с 3 сторон. I had to lure him. Take attention. I came early. He sat down in the lobby. He appeared, as always, suddenly. Alexei, I said, rising, I need to talk. One-on-one. He looked, thin, suspicingly. Then he nodded. Certainly. We entered the office. They sat down. I got to the edge, I said. I want to become the one you call internal. I want to be completely with you. He did not smile, watched, silent. Then he suddenly said, Prove. How? Betray yourself. All your old life. Burn her, remove all connections, even Karina, especially her. I nodded, and he felt the trap closed. Right now? Now. I took out the phone, turned on, opened messages, showed. He leaned closer. I felt his breath, his eyes. Click, delete. The finger hangs over the screen. In this moment, Pavel was supposed to enter. Everything was to happen now, but nothing happened. And Alex understood. He grabbed me by the wrist, instantly. You are lying. From the very beginning. A guard flew into the door. I threw the phone and rushed to the window, but he did not let me jump out. He clung. I fell. He is from above. Smiles. You are not the first, but you are the weakest. You thought you were special? No, you are nothing, and you will stay here, forever. There was a cry. The door was torn off the hinges. Paul, Kira, 2 in black, noise, light. I did not have time to understand. Everything was spinning. The next thing I remember is the white chamber. The smell of alcohol. Cars outside the window. I was lying under a dropper. Kira was not nearby. Pavel sat in the corner. They pulled out, he said. Barely. Lena? He nodded. She is in another clinic, but alive, speaks. Not everything remembers, but the main thing is alive. I cried, sinless. Alexei? Gone, officially. The house belonged to the shell company. No evidence, no composition, nothing. But he will not appear. Bye. 6 months have passed. I live in a small town. I work as a volunteer. Sometimes I write, sometimes I just sit in silence. We rarely speak with Kira. With Lena, we are not talking at all. She needs her time. Every day I wake up with the feeling that he is still nearby, that he is looking. What if I relax too much? He will come. But I am alive, and I remember. So, he lost. Let it not be for a long time. Let one day. But he lost.